Hey there, my name is Jerem, and I can't thank you enough for agreeing to work on this research project with me. I've been in public education. I spent a little over 20 years, started as a fourth grade teacher in Kansas, and then found my way down to Texas, where I spent a lot of my career working in instructional technology. So outside of the classroom, fourth grade classroom, I really have worked deeply with adult learning, with teachers really pre-K through 12th grade, and then found myself up in Louisville as my most recent job, where I was director of educational technology amongst many other things. It was just a crazy 3 years in Louisville that gave me all kinds of incredible experience. And I now work for Apple and spend a lot of my time with district leadership across the country, helping them to understand how to best implement digital tools in the classroom. I wanted to give you a really brief introduction into the research of what I'm looking at and where we're going to be going timeline-wise to get this research project completed. So let's dive in and take a look. So this article caught my attention back in 2013. This is a little ways back, but it really started the seed of understanding where I was going with what we were doing with digital tools in the classroom. And it's from slate.com. It's all about the way that we use devices with kids, really. And honestly, it was this particular phrase that caught my attention. So I'm going to just kind of zoom in here. And what this says is, as it's describing how these particular teachers used iPad in the classroom, it says the teachers cared most about how the devices could capture moments that told stories about their students' experiences. Instead of focusing on what was coming out of the iPad, all that research stuff that we get out of a device, these teachers were really focused on what was going into it. And that's where my mind locked in. That's where I started to see the power of what digital tools could provide in the classroom. And so just as a brief way to think about what we'll be working on collaboratively as a kind of a lesson together, I'll pull up this little presentation, and I'm just going to jump through a couple of the pieces, not all of it. So one of the things that the research tells us is that our brain learns through two kind of major pathways. We have a linguistic pathway and a non-linguistic pathway. And these two kind of interplay, they go back and forth. And so Pavio started all of this research, and this is 40 plus years old, so this is nothing new. But Pavio looked at how our brain learned through images. This is the concrete stuff, the imagery that we associate, all of that concrete understanding of the world, the concrete memories. And those are things that are nonverbal, as well as the things that are logogens, or the things that are verbal or linguistic in nature. And he started to find that these two, the concrete imagery with the abstract linguistic or language, they played against each other and actually built on each other. And that these are both really important pathways. But what happens is a lot of times in schools, we kind of totally take out this imagery component. We focus really heavily on the text-based stuff. And what that leads to is that we spend a lot of our time over here in the linguistic area with how we connect kids to learning versus the non-linguistic. And what we know is that the two are equally important, that we've got to really spend time building the concrete non-linguistic understandings of whatever it is we're learning, and then move that into the abstract linguistic space. And so that's really the foundation for this particular research. And it focuses all on this concept of transmediation. And so as we work with your lesson, we're going to be really thinking about transmediation and how we move student work from one side to the other. And over here in the non-linguistic, how do we move things around between photo, video, audio, and sketch? And when we think of sketch, that's like digital sketch on an iPad or a digital tool. And so that's kind of it's really the kind of the overview of the research that we're looking at. And then I'll be breaking this down. We've got obviously a pre and post interview that I'll be working on with you, some observations there in the classroom that will be recorded, and then student artifacts. And I'm going to take those, I'm going to dump them into some research software called NVivo and start to really pull out this quantitative understanding of what's happening. What are the themes that we start to see? And so this is all going to be grounded in a process called design-based research. And so this is kind of a documented process for how to go about this kind of research. And then the way that we're going to really go through the whole process that I'll be working with you on is we've gone through this participant selection. I've reached out to your campus principals, and then we're going to work together to really design a lesson based on something that you've done. We'll implement that lesson, and then we'll have the pre-interview on the front side of that, and then the post interview on the back side of it, as well as pulling some student work in. That's all going to be dumped into this software called NVivo, which is a qualitative analysis software, so that we can start to pull themes from how we best use digital tools in the classroom. So timeline wise, I would really love to have this, all the data collection completed by spring break, if that's doable, if that fits within your timeline. And if not, then we'll make it work. But we'll start off, we'll have a little kind of introduction. We'll do that in conjunction with the pre-interview, which I'll start emailing you guys about. All of the pre-approval as far as the PHP and all of the research approval, that's already been taken care of. We'll then move in and take a lesson that you hopefully already have kind of planned and in place, so this isn't something new that you've got to pull from. We'll talk about how that fits within this whole transmediation model, moving student thinking around across modalities. And then after we do the lesson, we'll record that and then move into doing a post-interview with you after the fact. And that's when that's all done, that's pretty much where your responsibility ends. I'm going to take all the data, put it together, we'll dump it into NVivo, and of course I'll share all the results and evaluation with you when the process is done. So hopefully that was quick enough to give you an idea for what I'm going after with this research project. I think you are going to be just a great teacher to work with. I can't wait to look at how we start to see the use of iPad across elementary, middle, and high school. That's going to be a first when it comes to this kind of research. And so I think the themes we pull out of your experience, that your kids, the work that your kids are doing, the way that you approach this lesson, and the things that you find out of it are going to be really important for how we shape our learning about using digital tools in the classroom. So quick overview, a little bit of the timeline mixed in, and I can't wait to do this work with you and dive into the research project itself.